Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Bryan City Council meeting, Monday, February 15th, 2020 at 5:30. The first thing is to approve the minutes from the February 1st, 2021 council meeting.
Go approve. Move to approve. I'm sorry.
This is Judy.
I'll second, Jim.
John,
Yes.
Judy,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Mary.
Yes. The next thing is hearing of public concerns. Mayor, do we have anybody calling in?
Not at this time.
Okay. If somebody does, we'll go ahead and let them in. Next up is item number 3, the clerk treasurer's report.
The council's been presented with the clerk treasurer's report for the month ending January 31st, 2021.
I'll move the way we approve, Rick. I'll second, Jim.
Rick,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Judy,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Mary.
Yes. Next up is item number 4, an ordinance. Lori, will you please read?
Ordinance number 7, 2021, an ordinance authorizing and directing the mayor to enter into a 20-year ground lease renewal agreement with National Railroad Passenger Corporation for the Bryan Amtrak station.
Council, you have an ordinance and a lease agreement in front of you that we are hoping you can approve this evening. This is a renewal of a lease that we have had with Amtrak for a number of years. It is for the same acreage of land, the same access, all of the terms remain the same. They actually had expired their lease, so we have been working on this over the last year, and they are current with their lease payments.
I do have a question on this one, Carrie. When I read this over, so it's all the other leases have been for 20 years? And
They were for a shorter time before, but they've asked for a 20-year lease this time.
okay, and the price is exactly the same?
Yes.
Okay,
I think I talked with them. If I might, Judy, it might help. I talked with the mayor quite a bit a few days ago about it for, I don't know, quite a while actually. And my understanding, because I had a number of questions, one of which you just brought up. I think it's kind of important to point out that even though this is 20 years, if you look into it, even with more fine detail, we do have 60-day outs. And I think theirs is like 30 days or something. So I think it's good to proceed with the understanding that if things go awry for some reason, we don't necessarily are not 100% tied to this. Would that be an accurate assessment, Rhonda? You certainly may correct me, or Mayor.
Yes, we have those types of outs. It's also worthy to note that we have already been involved in these same contracts for the last 20 years with them. We've just been renewing them every 5 years.
Right.
And so I think rather than go through this gymnastics every 5 years, they just wanted to extend it. I think it's great.
And I also think it's good for Bryan to have a relationship with Amtrak. That stop is notable.
Yes.
And I certainly don't want to lose that for the community either.
No.
Yes, not so long ago, there was a lot of talk about Amtrak wanting to do away with our station, and it's good to know that they want to maintain that. And like you say, I think it's good for Bryan.
Agreed. So I would motion, what is this, an ordinance that we suspend?
I'll second, Rick.
John,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Judy,
yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Mary.
Yes.
Motion to approve. This is Judy.
This is Jim. I'll second.
Judy,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Mary.
Yes. Up next is item number 5 in ordinance. Lori, will you please number and read?
Ordinance number 8, 2021, an ordinance to accept the preliminary plat for Greystone Subdivision First Edition and replat of Lot 24 of Greystone Subdivision.
Good evening. You all should have received a preliminary plat and the minutes from the February 1st Planning Commission hearing. Planning Commission moved to recommend the preliminary plat of Greystone First Edition. This will be an extension of Stonehenge Drive, terminating in a cul-de-sac. Proposed 7 new lots and replatting lot 24 of Greystone Edition. The way it sits now, this is just preliminary plat. They would come back to us with construction drawings. If approved, they would start construction. And then we would come back to you once it's built for a final plat.
I noticed when I read this that it said the cul-de-sac was going to be a little larger. Is there a reason for that? Or just
Fire
they
trucks.
wanted?
Fire trucks require 96-foot turning radius.
What do they do about the other ones that are out there then, that are already there?
The 96 came into effect after some of the
Oh,
additions
okay.
were already built. So any new subdivision.
Okay. Thank you.
I'll move that we suspend, Rick.
I'll second.
Judy?
Rick,
Yes.
Judy,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
John,
I'm going to need to abstain.
Mary.
Yes.
I'll motion to approve, Jim.
I'll second, Judy.
Jim,
Yes.
Judy,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
John,
Abstain.
Mary.
Yes. Item number 6 is an ordinance. Lori, will you please number and read?
Ordinance number 9, 2021, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Gerken Paving Incorporated for the project known as 2021 Asphalt Program.
Good evening. As usual, we only have one bidder for this project. Came in under my estimate a little bit, I believe. The bid was $478,894.05. As we discussed before, we're going to pay Town Line Road with this. That's the biggest share of the project. We're also doing some catch basin and manhole repairs that are underneath the pavement. And we're also going to do a few small sections, central part of town, like Beach, Lynn, Maple, and Walnut, generally between High Street and Wilson Street. So with that, I would request you suspend the rules and approve this so we can get it on the agenda.
This is Judy. I move to suspend.
I'll second, Jim.
Judy,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Mary.
Yes.
I'll move to approve. John?
I'll second, Rick.
John,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Judy,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Mary.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
you.
Up
Brian.
next is, thank you, Ryan. Up next is number 7, resolution. Lori, will you please number and read?
Resolution number 7, 2021, a resolution providing for the repayment of an interfund cash advance. This is a repayment on the industrial Park North project, which is the TID piece of the project, which came back from the county last week, of $137,677.02 to the 0.5% income tax fund, and of $62,322.98 to the 502 water fund, for a total repayment of $200,000. And this will close out the project.
I'll motion to suspend, Jim.
Oh, go ahead. Jim's good. I'll second.
Jim,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Judy,
Yes.
Mary.
Yes.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second, Rick.
John,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Judy,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Mary.
Yes. Up next is item number 8, a resolution. Lori, will you please number and read?
Resolution number 8, 2021, a resolution to adopt the Revolving Loan Fund Administration Agreement with the State of Ohio Department of Development for the period beginning February 1st, 2021 and ending December 31st, 2023, and declaring it an emergency.
Council, on this contract, this again is something that we have to renew every few years for our revolving loan fund through the state that is administered through Maumee Valley Planning.
I'll move to suspend, John.
I'll second,
I'll
Rick.
second, Jim.
John,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Judy,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Mary.
Yes.
I'll move to approve, Jim.
I'll second, Judy.
Jim,
Yes.
Judy,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Mary.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, up next, we have a building permit.
Tonight I have a permit for Greg Glazer. This is for the new Dollar General located at 1420 West High Street, the old custom cleaner site. Pinnacle Construction of Wisconsin will be doing the work. State construction type is 2B. State use group is M and S1. Cost for the project, $375,569. Be 9,100 square foot of new Dollar General store.
Is this, Andy, a new, you just said it, but a new store and the old one still stays, or is this a move from that store to this location?
I have no idea what the plan for the current store is.
Okay.
Yeah, it seems kind of low for a new building.
Does.
I thought that too, but it's, like I said, it's a metal building and a
Yeah.
mechanical room. Not much to it.
Okay. I'll motion to suspend, Jim.
I'll
I'll
second.
second, Rick.
Oh, sorry, Rick's fine.
Jim,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Judy,
Yes.
Mary.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'll move to approve.
Mr. Betts, we actually just needed a motion to approve.
Oh, you need it. Thank you.
That's my bad. That's
No,
my
no.
bad.
Okay.
Well, we just moved on from that, Jim. It was the first one.
Happy birthday, Jim.
Hey, thank you.
Okay, next up is item number 10, a status change in engineering.
I'm happy to announce that Cliff Weigel will be here a year, effective February 19th. Done a great job for us, as we talked about in the annual report. And I think most all of you have seen the work that he's done. Quite pleased with it. So with that, I would request that you take him off probation effective February 19th and give him his scheduled wage increase.
I'll move to approve, John.
I'll second. This is Judy.
John,
Yes.
Judy,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Mary.
Yes,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Next up is item number 11, a new hire. Chief?
Good evening. I'm here to recommend Ross Butler, who is currently a part-time dispatcher for us, to be transferred over to a full-time patrol officer for the city of Bryan upon successful completion of his pre-employment medical examinations. His hire date will be determined when we get those results in.
What happens with the dispatcher, chief?
It's his part-time job. He was waiting to fulfill his state certification test.
Right.
So we hired him part-time to get him used to talking on the radio and being in the department. So he was starting to learn the system is what he was doing with that part-time job.
But whoever was doing, since he was doing that, is somebody else then picking that up? That's my,
He was still in the training process. He was not on his own, filling shifts on his own. He was in the training process.
okay.
That's also a 12-week training process. So it's going to be combined into his FTO program that he's
Okay.
just a little bit ahead of the curve.
Got it. Thank you.
A motion to approve, Jim?
I'll second, Rick.
Jim,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Judy,
Yes.
Mary.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Up next
Thanks,
Up
Steve.
next is item number 12, a resignation for the fire department. Chief Siders.
Good evening, council. You have a letter before you from Nicholas Cooper, who is one of our probationary firefighters. Nick has decided that this isn't for him and he wishes to resign from the fire department.
This is Judy. I'll motion to accept with regret.
I'll second, John.
Judy,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Mary.
Yes,
Thank you.
thanks, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
Up next, we have the 2020 annual reports. Mayor, would you like to do the introductions?
Sure, we'll go ahead and try again with alphabetical order and only flip if somebody loses internet connection. So I'm going to ask that Chief Chapa give the 2020 annual report for Bryan Police Department.
Hello again. Before you is the annual police report for the Bryan City Police Department. This is going to be a short version. Much like every department that's coming up, COVID-19 has affected us in a lot of ways. The police department in particular, we have a lot of interaction with the community, not only at your car, but in your house. So it was pretty difficult for us to navigate those waters for quite a while. We actually did pull back for quite a while to limit our interaction with the public. We was there for any services that was needed of us, but we had to pull back and consider safety issues in regards to COVID for the officers and for the general public. With that being said, the department still received over 7,000 calls for service. We issued 504 traffic citations for both adult and juveniles. Our day that was heavy was Friday with nearly 1,200 calls received, and the busiest time was 4 p.m. through 6 p.m. In that time frame with 1,100 calls received. We have, at the beginning of the year, added a new flow chart. We've hired an assistant chief and a police captain. So that has changed our dynamics in our process. Community relations is going to be helped in that regards. The captain and the assistant chief will be able to handle more issues with that. The bike patrol was cut back again with the COVID. As you know, the summer, they weren't out doing a lot of that stuff. Interaction with the public is what the bike patrol does a lot of stuff with. And as you know, interaction was limited in that respect. The police chaplain was called out for several occasions, was utilized, and he did a great job. When we get to training, training was also cut back, just like the school and everything else. Our schooling, we weren't allowed to go to Columbus, we weren't allowed to go to Toledo, to Owens. So all our training was cut back. We did do in-house training, and we did do several internet training, and that put us roughly around 211 hours of training for the year. A lot of the other stuff, if you go through and you look at it, it's OBI testing and everything we did for the year. We'll get on to the K-9 unit. We had to retire our K-9 in, I believe it was June. Yes, it was June. Sage was retired. He had some hip issues. The veterinarian said it was best for his livelihood, living situation that we let him go before it actually hurts him. So he was retired, and he is with Justin Garza. And looking forward to this year, next week we should have a new K-9 coming on. His name is Tyson, and he will be coming into service next week. So Tyson's a beautiful dog, and you'll all get to see him as soon as we can. Next on reserve activity, we got 3 reserves, Stan Neihart, Matt Fransdorf, and Cliff, which you just did his year in. They've all been working for the city and doing a good job in those regards. We have no complaints with the SRO. We've got Cliff doing a great job with what he's doing for the engineering department. And then just the rest of the report is a flow chart, calls for services and stuff. There's a comparison through the last 3 years. So is there any questions that you guys had of the PD?
I just had a real quick one, similar to with the fire department. Most of the calls seem to be habitually from 2017 to 2020, what's known as assist civilian. Just 1 or 2 examples of that so I understand it. I assume it's assisting our public, but like what would be an example?
Getting in your car, you can't get into your car, or doing an unlock, can't get into your house, leaving a notice from another department, or a notice from, or for instance, your daughter would call and say, hey, I can't get hold of mom and dad. Can you go see if they're home?
Okay.
They go knock on the door, make sure you're well-being, you're okay.
Okay.
There's nothing happening at the house.
All right.
It's pretty much what it goes to assist. It's just us going out and knocking on a door or talking to somebody for something like that, or helping out in a minor way that's not going to change the world, but it may change your world, type of thing that you want it done, you need it done, and there's nobody else in the town that can really go do it for you. So that's where we help out.
No, I think it's a great customer service. That's why I wanted to highlight it. I think it's excellent opportunity for the police to be seeing what they are, which is to serve and protect.
In that regard, there's a lot of stuff that the public doesn't see. There were several barricaded subjects we've dealt with last year. One at the courthouse that the courthouse got to see. Our officers are doing a good job. They've been here through the 19 crisis and haven't taken a lot of time off for it. We've been here every day. We're one of those mandated, we got to be here. We have to keep on going. And all the officers are really pushing, and they're covering overtime shifts and doing what the city needs to get done. So they've done a great job for the year. So with that, I say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Okay, and next we will have Wes Wygant from our wastewater treatment plant. He is our superintendent, department head out there.
Good evening, council. 2020 was an interesting year for us as every other department has stated too. We dealt with that by splitting our crew into two shifts, and we put half the guys stayed on first shift and the other half went to second shift. Certainly not efficient as far as being able to churn out as much work as we, normally would. A lot of the projects that we do require a minimum of two guys working on it, just for the simple fact that a lot of things are heavy and they're in places you can't get equipment to it, things like that. The guys did a really good job. They figured out innovative ways to get jobs done that might have required 3 guys or 4 guys all at the same time. It was all based with the idea of just trying to make sure that if COVID-19 did manage to get inside the wire, that we wouldn't lose the whole crew all at one time. The wastewater plant, obviously, you've heard me say it before, is a place you can't turn it off. It has to run 24/7 regardless. So they did a really good job. We're really proud of them there. Knock on wood, nobody has come down with COVID in our department. So we've managed to dodge that bullet so far. In 2020, it was a really dry summer this year. And I think another thing you've heard me speak about in the past is a wastewater plant is designed to remain in balance, and it wants to operate inside of a certain envelope. And it was really, really dry this summer, and our flows were about 20% lower than normal. And it made it a little bit difficult on top of everything else to just kind of stay on top of it and make sure we were meeting our state permit. We did manage to come through unscathed. We didn't have any problems in the long run. It took a little bit of unique operational strategies to keep it going, but we did manage to get that done. Some of the operational notes that you'll see in front of you, the total flow was 594 million gallons for 2020. And an example of how dry it was is in 2019, which was a fairly average year, we had 735 million gallons come through the plant. So it was considerably less water passing through. Our daily average in 2020 was 1.646 million gallons per day. And in 2019, the daily average was just over 2 million gallons a day. The amount of solids that we handled, the Class B solids, was 1.375 million gallons, and that was also down from 2019, when we ran 1.732 million gallons through the plant. Dry tonnage that we put out of Class A biosolids was 199 dry tons, and then in 2019 we had 229. That was a 13% reduction. All in all, everything worked out okay. We got through it. Things are starting to come back to normal now. We did 3 capital projects in 2020, and none of them were extremely big, but they were important. Probably the most important capital project that we did was the Underpass Motor Control Center replacement. And that's the electrical equipment inside the pump station itself that keeps the pumps turning when they need to be. And that was the original equipment that was in there. And the reason that we replaced that was the equipment was so old that it was getting really hard to source some of the switch gear that was inside of the thing. And we were losing a lot of the wires. We've done a lot of repairs on it over the years just to keep it chugging along. And it's been really reliable. But obviously that station is one you can't afford to lose, or all would just have a pond underneath the railroad tracks there. So we made the choice this year to replace that. We had Willis Electric come in and they did the work for us, and they did a fine job. It turned out real well and everything went as expected. Second project that we did in 2020, we have bar screen room out there. And what the bar screen does is take out sticks and bottles and anything that comes into the plant that you don't want to pass on through and get into the pump, things like that. That room is, it's pretty corrosive in there. And so the conduit was getting really, really rough, and a lot of the switching and motor control in that room was getting really, really corroded. So we went ahead with that project, got that done. Willis Electric again handled that portion of the work there at the plant. They did a good job on that. We're always real happy with those guys. And the last bigger project that we did that was a capital project, we replaced a lot of sidewalk there at the plant. Some of you have been out there and walked around, and you may have noticed the sidewalk wasn't crumbling, but it was starting to separate and sink and rise in places. It was starting to get pretty dangerous for walking around on. So we did 700 linear feet of sidewalk there this summer, and that was a real nice project. That turned out okay. I put some pictures in the packet there for you to look at just to kind of get an idea of what we were doing. Beyond that, everything else worked out real well. Our treatment efficiencies were good for the summer. We got everything done. The cost per gallon water through the plant was 0.3 cents per gallon as it went through the plant for treatment, which is a pretty fine number. That worked out real well for us. And other than that, as you look through the packet, it's just, you'll see a summary of operation there that just kind of gives you an idea of what our treatment efficiencies are, how well things operate there at the plant. And we've been real happy with the plant. It's a good design. It works well for us. We've got some upcoming projects in the next several years to kind of shore up the operation at the plant and its efficiencies, to deal with upcoming regulatory changes, things like that. Other than that, if you have any questions, I'd be glad to try to answer them for you.
I have none, but I have a comment that you have upcoming projects. Your upcoming projects are not cheap. So I would certainly, with some sense of humor, encourage you to talk with Lori so she doesn't have like a heart attack.
Lori and I've been talking about it. Yeah, we're on top of that. We've been working on it. You'll be seeing the information on those coming up soon. As a matter of fact, we just I just got the information that you'll want to see in the parts that Lori wants to see. I just got them in my hands today and spent most of the afternoon going over them, just making sure that we had all the numbers there that needed to be there. And so we'll spring that on you soon enough.
Thanks, Wes.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Wes.
Thank you.
And Council, I know
You're
I sound
welcome.
like a broken record, but I do want to thank both of these department heads for all of their work in the last year. Wes has an old plant that he is working through and making sure that it maintains and manages all of the city's needs. They work in tight quarters, and his staff agreed to go on a different shift. Half of them were working second shift when COVID first initially was introduced to us to protect themselves. He also agreed with getting lab work done for the State Department of Health so that they can monitor our waste with regards to the virus, and that monitoring has been going really well. Chief Chapo was probably one of our most involved department heads as far as COVID went. He was on and represented all the chiefs from the county when the health department had their weekly and biweekly calls for months. He wrote policy that other departments followed. And they just have both done a really outstanding job this last year. And I look forward to the things that will get done in 2021.
Thank you. With that, we will go around the room and see if anyone wants to say anything. Let's do city workers first. Any department heads, any questions, anything?
I just want to say with the weather being the way it is, if you can stay in, stay in. If you have to be out, be careful. The road's out my window. Beach Street looks like it's covered up already, so I think we're in for more of a haul than what we want. So just be careful when you're out driving, if you have to drive. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Anyone else? With that, we'll go across the screen. First one up is Mr. Betts.
Oh, looky there. I'd like to thank Wes and Chief Chapa for their annual reports. It's always very informative and a good read. I actually do enjoy reading over the stuff. Also want to congratulate Mr. Weigel and Mr. Butler on their new positions, or if you will, promoted positions. And want to wish Mr. Cooper well. I'd also want to state that why I abstained from the Greystone piece has to do with not my indifference one way or the other. Actually, I do have a fairly strong opinion in the affirmative. The issue becomes one of potential conflict of interest. My property of the Betts recreational facility butts up against it. So I don't want anybody saying that I voted on that because I had a conflict of interest. So that's why I abstained. It was no other reason. The last thing that I have is something that I found out that I would like to have Bryan know about. If Max could maybe mention it, don't have to mention me, but if Max could mention this, I think it's a valuable resource that I'm not sure Bryan, the people of Bryant, are fully aware of. If you need N95 masks, which are top of the line masks that are used by hospital personnel in Bryant, where the current where Arrow used to be, right next to the Spangler's, is known as ALG. They sell N95 masks, manufacture and sell them. Very high quality. They've passed all the certification requirements for that designation. And I was unaware. I thought that they just sold total wholesale. So if you go on their website, it'll basically say, you know, if you want 15,000 of these at $3 a pop, go ahead. They do not. They actually sell by the box retail as well. So I'm not doing anything other than trying to promote a Bryan business that I was unaware that they sell them. They will sell them on a retail basis. Of course, taxes have to be included, but they will sell them to people if you're interested. And they are, once again, certified by FDA and the National Occupational Health and Safety Administration, which is not easy certifications to get. So I just wanted to kind of put that out there to make sure people in Bryant are aware that that is something that's available to them. Their number was somewhat messed up, so I want to give it. It's 419-990-6275, and they do a very good job. I just bought 2 boxes on Friday, and Monday they told me the order was ready to be picked up. So just wanted to put that in to promote a business in Bryan that I'm not sure everyone is aware of. At least I was not. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Up next is Rick.
Better turn on the mic. I really don't have a lot to add. I too want to thank Chief Chapa and Wes Weigand for their presentations, and probably more so for what they do on a daily basis, taking care of our city. And as I appreciate all of the departments and the things that they do. I want to welcome our newest police officer to the force, Mr. Butler, and also Cliff Weigel. I want to thank him for what he does. This year has been very good, and I'm looking forward to more as we move forward. And everyone stay safe, stay warm, and hopefully we'll get through this snowstorm. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Judy.
I have a couple things. Also, thank you to the chief and to Wes for their reports. Also, want to say to Cliff, glad to have you on board full time. New hire for Ross Butler, and we're sorry to lose the fireman Nicholas Cooper. I do want to mention that you all know I'm an avid walker, and the Parks Department has done a fantastic job on keeping our sidewalks clean for the walkers out there. I've heard more comments from people. So if anyone from the Parks Department is listening, thank you, thank you, thank you. I also want to say thank you to the Tinkles and to John Trippy for investing in Bryan's future. And happy birthday, Jim.
Thank you.
And with that, next up is the birthday boy. Go ahead, Jim.
I just want to thank Wes and Chief for a great presentation. I want to thank you guys and all your staff. You make Bryan what it is, and I really appreciate what you guys do and your staff does. I want to thank Cliff Weigel for staying on and continuing to do what he does. You're going to make Bryan a lot better place, and we are happy to have you on board. Welcome Ross Butler. I wish him the best, and I wish everyone a very safe night and enjoy the snow. Thank you.
I don't know about enjoy the snow. Right now I've got a fussy dog, so what we're going to do is take a break and then go into executive session. No, she's not barking. So I want to thank all the department heads too, and everyone for whatever you do, and everyone please stay safe. So with this, we're going to take a short break and go into executive session.
Miss,
Oh,
can I say
I'm
something?
sorry.
It's okay. I actually had this on my calendar for a little later in the year, but then the chamber announced their dates for Jubilee, so I thought maybe I needed to address this with council. When DORA was established, there was a lot of debate on whether or not that would be available during the Jubilee or if it would be temporarily suspended by council. In order to do anything on that, we have to publicize, I believe, in the paper 2 consecutive weeks, similar to what we did with the DORA. So I guess I'm trying to get in open session kind of your appetite for the Jubilee and quick in the guidance of, do you want me to present legislation that suspends it for the week? Are you completely against suspending DORA and allowing the the DORA to go on during the Jubilee? If anybody feels strongly one way or the other before we spend money in advertising, I guess I just wanted to get your feel for that.
My personal feeling, go ahead.
Is there going to be a problem with the courthouse? Because they're not allowed on the.
You cannot go on the grass one way or the other. Yeah.
Will the chamber be responsible for that?
Or what?
Keeping people, if we tell them that we can do the DORA during the Jubilee, will the chamber be responsible for keeping them off of the courthouse square? That would be their responsibility, correct?
It will be chamber's responsibility, but if that happens and it's not enforced, I'm sure law enforcement will come up, and it will be the sheriff's department that would. But yeah, I think chamber will probably be required to put some off-duty officers in there if it's going to be that kind of gathering. That's one thing that I know Dan is worried about the cost of, but for that kind of event, if there's going to be open alcohol, probably would need to have off-duty officers.
Me, I have no problem with it, and try it and see what happens. If we have a problem, then we can just stop it.
We can't though stop it during the Jubilee because we have to have notice, and so if we go forward, it's there the whole week.
My thought on it is that we had a fair amount of opposition to the DORA when we were discussing it. And we are in a trial period this year, and we will revisit it again in the fall. And I just feel like we need to ease into it. And I'm not sure that having the DORA available during the Jubilee would be a popular thing, even for people who are for the DORA. And so I would kind of like to get through this year without it during the Jubilee and then bring it in the future if possible. You know, that would be something that we could discuss, but that's my feeling. Let's see how things go on a daily basis and maybe some other events. The Jubilee is such a family event. I want to make sure that we're doing the right thing. And I also have a little problem with, since we do have that carve out in the center of our city that is not part of the DORA, I'm just afraid that would be a huge effort to try to keep people out of there with their DORA containers. And so, you know, if the rest of you are for it, I have no problem. I just think that we have to be careful as we move forward with this.
Is there an option to have it one night? To have the DORA open one night and not all 3 nights?
You know, that's going to take some research on my end because everything I'm reading is you can temporarily suspend for up to 7 days. So I think it would depend on if that one night was on the first night or the last night versus the in-between night. Like if it runs Thursday, Friday, Saturday, to only have it on Friday may be difficult because of the way the code reads for the state. It wouldn't be an issue for us. A lot of this has to do with liquor control.
Okay. I would like to see it for one night, but if we can't do it, if it's either or, you know, I agree with Rick. I agree with Judy. I think we should ease into it, but I would like to see it for one night.
That might be a good compromise.
Yeah, I agree with Rick too, and I also agree with Jim on just one night just to see how it goes. But I'm also concerned with the cost it's going to be to the chamber to get law enforcement to protect the courthouse. I mean, I don't know if Dan has researched to see how much that's going to cost. And that might determine whether or not we can even do it one night.
And I'm only saying that because I think that's something the county commissioners may require. As far as our law enforcement, they've historically been pretty good. And I think those of you that have been involved with the Jubilee as chamber volunteers know they've been historically pretty good at having a presence there and keeping an eye on things and assisting the chamber when they need.
Yeah, I didn't know if it would be a matter of telling the establishments you can't put out cups anymore. I didn't know if that was an option.
Confusing to me. You know, if you say, well, yeah, we're going to do it. Well, now you can't do it. Well, yes, you can do it. Well, now you can't do it. I just.
Yeah, but I know when Henry County came.
If we do it and we try it and it doesn't work, then next year we will not do it. I mean, it's just going to be out. It's too bad we haven't had some nice weather to kind of test this thing out right now, but that's not in the cards. So, you know, if we were to have a couple of months beforehand to see how the door is going to go, but I don't think you're going to see anybody uptown walking around tonight with anything. So.
No, but I think part of the conversation sparked when Joel Miller from Henry County had come to address council. And he even said that a lot of the downtown events that they have in Napoleon, Rib Fest and all those, they actually suspend the DORA during those because they're more family type events.
Sure. My 2 cents has been historic and has not changed. I do not think that I think it needs to be suspended during the time. I think it has some value. I think agree with pretty much everybody on the concept of definitely not this year, but maybe in a future year. Let's see how it kind of goes. But the general concept of the Jubilee is it's 3 days. It's family oriented. I don't see that as a real big deal for a Thursday, Friday, Saturday not to have it. Or maybe if the well, you couldn't do that. I was thinking about the time element. Maybe if last call was midnight or whatever, and it you could do something after 10 if the Jubilee shut down at 10. I don't know if that's even possible, but it seems to me like those 3 days is not that big of a deal. And yet I think there was a lot, at least as I recall, that besides my personal stance, which came from a lot of other folks, the issue became one of family time. We don't want that. We don't want to clash with that. Actually, I've had about a half a dozen people at that time tell me if they have the door open, I'm not going down. So I'm somewhat concerned that that's going to have some impact on the family aspect of the Jubilee. That's my position, and I certainly have no problem standing up for it and having it voted down.
Do we have to vote on this, Gary?
Not tonight, but the truth is I wanted to know if you were all in agreement one way or the other, which you're not, which is absolutely fine. But I think there's enough information here that I have to do the publication in the paper saying that there is a proposed change that you guys can then vote yes or no for. But I really didn't want to put anything in the paper for Adora and you guys not know what it is and read it and be really confused because that was part of it. And we can't talk about this in executive session, so we needed to tag it on here. And B, I didn't want to spend money on a publication if we didn't need it. So I think there's enough discussion and debate that we can probably move forward with that publication and get some legislation in the next month or so, mostly because the chamber needs to be able to plan one way or the other where they need to go with this. Does that sound fair?
Yes.
Sounds
thank
good to
you.
me.
Sounds
No,
good.
Ms. Leatherman, I apologize for making you wait.
Nope, you're fine. Actually, I'm glad you did because I skipped over Lori and Rhonda. So, Lori, do you have anything to say?
No, ma'am, thank you.
All right, and Rhonda, do you have anything?
No, ma'am, thank you.
And once again, we are going to take a short recess and go into executive session. Good night.
And Mary, we have to list for the meeting what that executive session is
Oh,
for.
I'm so sorry.
That's
Yes,
okay.
that's exactly. We're going to executive session to consider appointment of employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or acquisition of property.
Yeah.
And with that, we will go into executive session.